Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. Elise Cannon. Today is Saturday. It's April 26th, 2025, and today is day 568. Updates from around the Middle East in the last 24 hours or so. Use these as a reminder to keep the violence that's happening in Gaza and other parts of the Middle East in front of us, that we might pray and seek to respond faithfully. In Iran, there were 700 people wounded and at least 5 people killed in a port explosion in Iran. The likely cause was poorly stored chemicals. It was a massive blast. It killed at least 5 people, according to Iranian state media. The explosion, which hit the Shahid Raji section of the port, occurred as Iran began a third round of nuclear talks with the United States and Oman. There was no indication of a link between the two events. A senior U.S. official said that the latest round of Iran-U.S. talks that happened today, direct and indirect, were positive and productive. This happened in Muscat. The U.S. official added that the latest round lasted about 4 hours and that further progress was made on the deal. The next round of U.S.-Iran talks should be held next weekend somewhere in Europe. President Donald Trump said yesterday that the U.S. would join Israel in attacking Iran if a nuclear deal is not reached with Tehran, but he said that they, being the U.S., would not be dragged in to an attack by Israel. Negotiations in terms of a possible ceasefire agreement in Gaza have continued, and Egyptian media announced that the Egyptian Foreign Minister, Abdel Hadi, is conducting intensive communications with regional and international parties to halt all forms of violations against the sovereignty of Arab states, saying that there must be an end to the use of double standards in international politics. Power and arrogance cannot bring security or peace to the region, and that Egypt rejects Israel's violations of the disengagement agreements, both in Syria and in Lebanon, the 5 points where Israel maintains a presence in South Lebanon. An action plan has been set for the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee to engage with Europe in support of Gaza reconstruction efforts, and Egypt is coordinating with the UN to host the Cairo Conference on Gaza's reconstruction. While the Hamas delegation recently met with mediators in Cairo to discuss a possible ceasefire proposal, a senior Hamas official said that the group is willing to agree to a 5-year ceasefire, a 5-year proposal in which they, Hamas, would release all hostages at once if Israel agrees to a 5-year halt in fighting, adding that the group would not return to an agreement similar to the one that they had in January. In Gaza, in the last 24 hours, about 49 Gazans were killed, including at least 5 children and 3 women. That's according to the Shifa hospital that received a number of bodies after numerous attacks. An IDF officer and border police officer were killed in North Gaza yesterday. One of the officers, the police officer from the border police, was a 19-year-old Neta Itzak Kahin from Moshav Eitan, and 21-year-old Captain Ido Valash from Jerusalem were both killed in combat in Shujaiya in Gaza City. In East Jerusalem, it was reported, this is the occupied East Jerusalem in the West Bank. It was reported in the West Bank that Israeli settlers burned down houses and lands in Bardala on Thursday. And yesterday, there was an ongoing Israeli military operation in Kalkia City, where at least one house became occupied by the IDF and became a military outpost. Also yesterday, a Palestinian was shot dead in clashes with Israeli defense forces near Nablus. And tonight, Israeli settlers were attacking Palestinians in Nihalin, a village northwest of Ramallah. Residents were advised to remain indoors and to keep away from their windows. Hussein al-Sheikh was officially appointed to be the new deputy of the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and Jordan, Turkey, and Egypt congratulated him and welcomed Hussein al-Sheikh on assuming the position of vice president of Palestine and vice chairman of the executive committee of the PLO. In Israel, a former Shin Bet Security Service chief, Ami Elon, said at Saturday's anti-government demonstration in Tel Aviv that the affidavit presented by the current Shin Bet head, Ronan Bar, in reply to Netanyahu's attempts to oust him, is a defining event in our struggle for Israel's Jewish and democratic identity. There also was a missile that was launched from Yemen towards South Israel. It was intercepted outside of Israeli territory today. In Syria, the state said that they would not become a threat to Israel in its response to a list of U.S. conditions for possible partial sanctions relief. The Syrian state said that they had acted on most of the conditions, but others required mutual understandings with Washington. The response said that Syria formed a committee to monitor the activities of Palestinian factions. Over 50 world leaders attended Pope Francis's funeral at St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. This included U.S. President Donald Trump. Israeli leaders chose not to pay their respects in person. According to Vatican estimates, 250,000 people flocked to the funeral mass at the Vatican, and 150,000 more lined the motorcade route through downtown Rome to witness the first funeral procession for a pope in a century. They clapped and cheered Papa Francesco as his simple wooden coffin traveled aboard a modified Pope-mobile to St. Mary's Major Basilica, about 6 kilometers or 3.5 miles away. Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re eulogized history's first Latin American pontiff during the Vatican Mass as a pope of the people, a pastor who knew how to communicate to the least of these among us with an informal and spontaneous style. He was a pope among the people with an open heart towards everyone, the 91-year-old dean of the College of Cardinals said in a highly personalized sermon. The guiding thread of his mission was also the conviction that the church is a home for all, a home with its doors always open, Ray said, noting that his travels, the Argentine pontiff reached the most peripheral of the peripheries of the world. So may His Holiness Pope Francis's memory be a blessing. Let's keep all Catholic leaders in our thoughts and prayers, particularly as the cardinals soon will be going into conclave for the election of a new pope. May God continue to go before us in our efforts towards peace. In the name of Christ, amen.